that's when probably shit will get a little bit dicey. I'll just say it that way.
I think it's good to at least understand the pros and the cons. Now it's going to be more transparent, which it always has been in our community. It's been more upfront, but it always has been. But I think at the end of the day, real estate agents need to do a great job of explaining what they all do, because sometimes clients don't understand.
If you look at everything rationally, not emotionally, you can normally get that deal together in a way that's sellers happy, buyers happy.
All right, Koby Sway here, Adam Briley. Really excited. We got episode 4 coming at you. We're going to talk about the Berkshire Hathaway conference that we were just at, because we're part of Berkshire Hathaway. And I was also just with John Sheplack at the Maverick conference in Nashville, Tennessee. If you don't know who John Sheplack is, then you're really missing out, because he is the coach amongst the coaches. And then we want to talk about the NAR lawsuit a little bit today. Unless you live under a rock, you probably have heard about the lawsuit making headlines. Yep. Why don't we start with the Berkshire conference?
Yeah. So that was myself, and we had a couple of our top agents go, Aaron and Skylar. Those two went up on stage to collect our award for getting #1 in units.
Got #1 in the country.
Yeah, #1 in the country in the Berkshire Hathaway network. So that was really cool. And then we got #2 for GCI, which was really actually impressive, because we are competing against, like in California and, bigger markets where
Florida's the average price
have much average higher average sales price. So that was really cool to get that too. So I would say the things, it's always good to go to those, because you get a network with other agents, kind of really see, I get more from just going deep with them on the sidelines, right?
Yeah.
You're not even getting a ton necessarily at the convention. You get to hear some cool stories from the speakers, get inspired, get motivated. I know Skylar and Aaron both got some really good nuggets on like tactical things that they can do, that they share with the whole team, as far as marketing tactics for homes, community videos. I know they talked about like YouTube,
how to stand out on YouTube, how to stand out on Facebook, how to get your name out there, and then using some of the tools we have, like Fellow, which is pretty cool. It talks about home value and how to leverage the tools you have, right?
Yeah, and I think the biggest thing that I found interesting, it's funny because you got a text a little bit ago on this, is probably the biggest thing that I heard from other team leaders was, gosh, we're busy in production, but they're not always able to keep their team members busy. And like so it's going into March here. And we were just there a couple weeks ago, and some of the conversations I was having, some of these agents haven't sold a home since like October of last year. So they're like, so the common theme was like, what do we do? What should we do here? How do we do this? And so we kind of talked a little bit about what you do as far as just, it's simple accountability, having standards on the teams. And then, the other cool thing too is, again, when you start seeing, which we talked about before, having your new agents start leading the way, and then your vet agents are like, gosh, like, man, they're out here crushing it, and they're following these new standards of what we're expecting as new agents join our team. So, that was really interesting here too, because again, sometimes as a team leader, if you don't have someone like yourself that's really running the show, you're so focused on your own business, kind of like what I do. I'm in production and I'm busy with production right now. If you don't have someone like you in place, those things will fail.
Oh, totally.
Like that's, it's hard to set these standards and have accountability. And most of the people I talk to, they don't have someone like that. So they're trying to figure out that balance too.
Well, and it's hard because, like you said, it's, the team leader is good at maybe selling or in production, and it's hard to move the needle on a person, right? Because, even the person that we messaged earlier was like, I wish they just did what I did. But I get that. But if they were like you, they would be running their own team. They wouldn't be working for a team, or they would be by themselves, right? Like normally what you find is you have a special gift or a unique ability, or your brain thinks differently than the next person. You kind of assume that other people are like you, but we're actually a lot different, right? So which is why, people are always struggling to wrap their mind around, well, why don't they just get excited about this? Or I'm super excited. It's like going to the conference. You get excited and you get inspired and motivated, but then as soon as you come home, you go back to what you did before.
Yeah.
And if you don't have somebody checking in with you constantly, you're not making any changes.
Yeah.
So.
Yep. The other thing too we went over is noticing that the whole iBuy, like offering an instant offer for clients, I think is definitely becoming a more popular thing because I literally right before we started this, I had a client call me, leave a message, and we always encourage folks to list their homes. They're going to put more money in their pocket, but I'm finding that more and more they want their time back. They don't necessarily want more money in their pocket. They want the convenience. They want the easy route. They want to be able to pick the closing date. They want the done option. They don't want to have to go through showings or anything like that. And, as the market has adjusted and it's become more of a normalized market, that is something. And so that was a pretty big conversation topic that we had at convention as well. And then, of course, at convention, we talked about the NAR. We talked about the lawsuit stuff, right? I don't think the NAR lawsuit just got announced last Friday. Yeah. So technically, that wasn't known at convention, but the lawsuit stuff has been going on. And, but I'll say too, now that the NAR lawsuit came out, it definitely solidifies us being at Berkshire is really important, especially in Omaha, being a part of a bigger, larger brokerage, to have that protection. And then making sure we're all on the same page to navigate these waters, basically, too.
Well, it's unknown. It's just a change, right? I think the headlines are you are going to be able to afford a more expensive house now because homeownership is going down, which is not proven to be true. You're not going to have to pay an agent anymore. It's going to save money in concessions and fees, but that's not necessarily true. They're alleging that all these things that they're alleging isn't necessarily true. So it's just like navigating, this is a change. This is something that's adapting. And it's just like, I tell people all the time, but real estate agents back in the day, they used to bring literally, and your dad would do this, would bring paper copies of listings or magazine articles of the houses, right? And then somebody came along and put them on a website and you're like, oh, well, this is going to be, it's a change. Or a lockbox is now in the house where before you wouldn't have that. So it's, just because commission is being talked about, there's never been a standard commission ever. And commission necessarily isn't going up or down. It's always been fairly negotiated. Yeah. It's not like any of that has changed, but the media is just obviously not doing it every day or just a little unknown. And I'm not saying they're doing a bad job. It's just people don't know what they don't know.
Well, it's a lot of clickbait. It's a lot of fear tactics, I would say. I definitely don't see prices going down because of this. I don't even see how. I guess I could see where someone would think that, but it's driven by supply and demand.
Exactly.
Right? So I do see it changing the industry for sure.
100%.
Now, how it's going to fully affect it, I don't know.
It could take 3 years, 5 years.
Yeah, and there's always a downward pressure on commission, but that's nothing new. No. I've been doing this for 17 years, and there's always been a downward pressure on commission because you'll always have someone come in and offer to do it for cheaper.
Of course.
Period. And so, that's what we call discount brokers, right?
Exactly.
So there will be different people that probably come in and try to do the clickbait of getting people on this NAR, using the NAR lawsuit to their advantage to try to get people to do it for cheaper. But, a big part of the NAR lawsuit was being transparent.
Exactly.
Now, that's one thing that I feel like us, our team, our brokerage, I would say probably about most of the people in real estate agents in Nebraska and Iowa have always operated this way. So I don't think this is really going to change how we operate. It might add another addendum or two, no big deal. But we've always been very upfront on commission because let's say you go in and commissions in our marketplace, again, they're 100% negotiable. There's no set standard. We certainly weren't colluding. We're probably not smart enough to collude, on that stuff. But in our marketplace, I would say it probably ranges realistically, 5 to 7% on the high end. If you're talking in averages, every once in a while, some people do it higher than that. And there are some that offer lower than that. And there's, of course, the for sale by owner services that say, hey, pay us $1,000 and we'll put it up on the MLS and then you choose what you pay out.
Yes.
But we've always been because as a real estate agent, let's say you go in and let's use 7% for the sake of the conversation. If you go in on that listing appointment and you say, okay, 7%, and that seller you want to tell the seller, no, I'm not getting all this.
Because it's a big number.
Yeah, it's a big number. So you want to tell them, yeah, I would love to take all this, but in reality, I don't. A big chunk of that goes to the buyer's brokerage, and then it gets split to them. Because if you didn't communicate that to them, they're just thinking in their head, well, you get this whole number.
50 grand or something.
Yeah, and so you want to be able to communicate that to them, and we always have, because it's almost like, it almost softens the blow of us not, because we really don't collect that much, right? And so, I feel like, and that's most agents, we've always communicated
at least in our community.
Yeah, and that's on the seller side, right? So we always say, yeah, we do offer that. And I will say this, most sellers that I've talked to, either I brought it up, or if they beat me to the punch and they bring it up, since the NAR lawsuit was announced last Friday, the general conversation is, the sellers are saying this, well, we would want to offer a payout.
Exactly.
We don't see why, by not offering it, how that would help us.
How is that an advantage?
Yeah.
Because now less traffic is going to be coming through your door, essentially.
Yeah. Now, I think we do have to be careful of how that's talked about, how that's presented.
Of course, you don't want to say it that way.
Because it's like, it is your choice, but you play it out of how you think that's going to affect you.
Yep.
So I feel like most people we're talking to, they see the advantage of offering a payout. They understand that costs more money to them.
Yep.
Right? But in their mind, they're like, well, we're paying this anyway. Let's offer a buyer's agent commission, because if we leave it on the buyer, that could eliminate some of these buyers that don't have the extra money to pay their buyer's agent.
And let's think about it. So today, a first-time home buyer typically is struggling with the down payment, because it's expensive, guys, to buy a house, right? Even in our area, the average sales price is $350,000. It's expensive for closing costs, right? So as a let's say on the buyer's side, if you're not paying their commission, let's just say for the buyer's side, you're going to run into first-time home buyers probably can't afford a compensation or an extra payment. So they might have to buy a less expensive house in order to be compensating the real estate agent. And then another part of it is you run into clients that don't understand, or they're not educated properly. You can't finance this either. So
as of right now,
you can't finance it. So that's always the question is, well, just put it on your loan. You can't legally do that. So now it
can be a closing cost, but that's cash out of your pocket.
Exactly. It can't be put into the loan. So today's laws won't allow you to finance it, and it's got to come maybe at a closing cost, like you're saying. So it can actually potentially hurt first-time home buyers, and that's a huge segment of our business.
Yeah.
So I think it's good to at least understand the pros and the cons. Now it's going to be more transparent, which it always has been in our community. It's been more upfront, but it always has been. But I think at the end of the day, real estate agents need to do a great job of explaining what they all do, because sometimes clients don't understand. You're taking calls at 10:30 at night, 11 o'clock at night. You're talking to contractors. You're talking to title companies, mortgage companies. You're at the house inspecting certain things. You're pointing things out that they don't notice. You actually provide a ton of value as a realtor that clients don't actually see. Now this gives you the chance to explain all that you do.
Yeah, and so I see what happening maybe for a little bit is it might go through where like it's going to be a performance / value-driven world, right?
Yep.
Where you really have to make sure you're showing your value and providing that value, which is as we should. And so yeah, I feel like everyone that I'm talking to is in agreement. Yeah, more transparency is totally cool. Like we're totally cool with that. Because, if you really look back at the last like 10 years of transactions, it probably wasn't like buyer's agents weren't always like, yeah, this is exactly how I'm getting paid, because you just knew, okay, here's what the MLS payout is. I know what I'm getting paid. No big
sadly,
deal.
a lot of agents said, oh, you don't have to worry about it. It's covered or it's free, which is the wrong
narrative. Yeah, that definitely wouldn't be the right.
That was a bad narrative.
Yeah, and so, and I do feel like we definitely...
And we don't say that as a team. I'm just saying, I feel like the industry has always kind of said that. Oh, just use an agent. It doesn't cost you anything.
Yeah, no, and it does kind of, because it's kind of baked into that price.
Baked into your closing costs.
I still don't see how that's going to reduce the price of the house. But I do see where it might be a 6-month, 2-year process where they go with a like tech-driven type world, and then, or they go with the lowest agent fee possibility or option, and that's when probably shit will get a little bit dicey. I'll just say it that way. Like things just won't happen the way they should, and then they start realizing, okay, I probably really, what's the saying, like I'm gonna butcher it, but like expenses is cheap or cheap is expensive. Cheap is expensive, basically. Like you go with the cheapest route, and it generally
usually more expensive.
It's going to cost you the most in the long run. Now, because I would tell an agent, let's say, so the average payout in our marketplace is 2.4 average. Okay, if you look at everything right now.
Sure.
If that gets driven down to 1%, let's say, or a flat fee, I would probably tell a real estate agent I wouldn't even do it. There's no way I would do this job as a buyer's agent and take 1%.
Yeah.
It's not worth it. I would rather go work at McDonald's and flip burgers.
The stress level will be a little bit lower.
Yeah. You know, because the stress, like you said, it's a nonstop. Not only do you have to constantly react to your clients, right? That's why we do it. So you got to do that. And then you got to always make sure you're building your pipeline.
Exactly.
And so you being on 24/7 for your clients and the stress of building, like you wake up every day jobless.
Yep.
Worrying about your next deal, doing all that for 1%. I don't think I would tell anyone to do it. I wouldn't encourage them to do it.
Yep.
I really wouldn't. So it will be interesting to see what happens there.
Well, think of really quick, just think of this, right? An attorney today will work on a will and an estate plan, or they will offer you to set up an LLC. There was an ad just yesterday, $199 to set up estate planning, $199 for this website. But what's the level of service? And they could do that. Just like we're going to see on this market, you can do this at a lower fee, like a tech play. But what's the service you're losing, or what are you missing? For example, and I don't know the company, I'm not going to say it, but if I went and did estate planning for $200 versus a professional attorney I met face-to-face,
where they're going to charge you thousands of dollars.
Thousands of dollars,
thousands
right?
and thousands
There's
of
a difference. And that's going to be the same thing. It's kind of like being an attorney. You can pay an attorney $50 an hour. You can pay him $400 an hour. There's going to be a different level of service. So if anything, this is going to help bring experts to another level.
Yes.
It might weed up people that are a little uneducated, people that aren't as smart or sharp. So it actually will help the business in general with clients because they'll get better served. Honestly, think how many realtors help clients that don't know what they're doing, and then all of a sudden they find there's leaking in the basement and the realtor didn't do anything.
Yeah.
Or there's some contract where somebody comes forward with some pending lawsuit and the realtor didn't properly disclose it.
Yeah.
You know?
Yep.
So there are a lot of positives there too.
Oh yeah, I definitely see it bringing a lot of like good things, because not that agents weren't already doing the things. It's just gonna force the other agents to do the things that the top ones were already doing.
Exactly.
Like so. Because like if I think of like when I represent a buyer, like it always gets brought up. Well, how much you get paid? You literally, here's the MLS payout. It's highlighted. You highlight it and say this is what I'm getting paid right here, 2.4%, for example. So that's, and I would say if I think of the other top agents in our marketplace, I know they're doing that same thing, and they have for a long time.
Yeah.
So there's no like hiddenness, but yeah. So. Yeah, it will definitely level people up, and that's probably the exciting thing. And and a lot of us too. If I think back over the last 10 years, Mark Brace, he's in Grand Rapids, I think,
Yep.
Michigan agent, he runs an excellent team.
Fantastic.
He's always said too, where like there needs to be another level of an agent, meaning like it's harder to get your license. There's like basically there's this next tier of an agent, and those are the ones that stand out. So kind of like this, what's going on is in line with what Mark has been trying to like push in his mind of what needs to happen.
Yep.
So a lot of your top agents want this anyway, too.
Because think about it. They watch HGTV or Selling Sunset, and they see $50,000, $200,000, right? They flash a big commission number on there. And we know the real estate agent, most of the time, those are actors and actresses. They aren't real realtors, but they flash these massive
aspiring actresses, or actors,
and they're flashing these massive numbers on there, and that probably has hurt real estate agents because of these massive fees, right? Like, I think if those kinds of shows didn't glamorize what the profession is and they showed what it was, if they showed what a realtor did on TV, I would be surprised if people actually did the job.
Well, because what's the average agent make? Isn't it like 30-some thousand?
$38,000 last time I looked.
Yeah.
And
that's across the U.S.
nationwide.
And I would say for Omaha, Nebraska, for our marketplace, our price point, that would be a very true statement.
Yep.
And it might be less.
And it probably is closer. If it's, our broker says, we just got this stat a few weeks ago, 70% of real estate agents sell 2 or less houses. And that's scary as a client because now you have someone that's not an expert, not a professional, not doing it every day, doing it part-time, guessing, making things up. Not saying they're all going to do that, but what you're going to find is they're not a professional, and you need to hire a professional for the largest purchase of your lives.
Yeah.
Right. So it's a little scary to think about, but yeah, probably the average agent I would say is probably closer to 20 to maybe early, low 30s.
Yeah.
In Omaha.
Yep.
So it's we're definitely not making $250,000 on one transaction, showing up and just unlocking the door.
Yeah.
That'd be nice. So it's a life decision, right? People are buying and selling because they need to move, because of divorce, because of relocation, and they bring that energy and emotion to you, which is why the stress level in real estate also goes up, because you're dealing with people in high stress situations, like say a divorce, and they're not communicating, but they're only communicating through you. Do you want to do that job for $25,000 a year, or would you rather do an easy, simple job?
Yeah.
For that example.
Yep.
You know?
Yeah, it'll be very interesting to see what happens here. I still think we're 6 months out to a year before we really see the effects on a national level of how it really affects us. But the changes that will start as of July of this year is every, and that's one thing that you said. So one of the goals for our team is, so starting July, every single buyer will have to sign an exclusive buyer contract.
Yes.
And that will tie that buyer to that agent. It spells out the fee that they're required to pay.
And the length of the contract,
and
3 months, 6 months, a year, whatever.
And the length of the contract. And that's a pretty new thing. Not a lot of buyers agents do that in our marketplace right now.
That's not common here.
But now it's going to be forced upon us to do it. And that's fine. That's great. So one thing that I know a priority for you is going to be making sure that we really lock in our buyer presentation consultation.
Absolutely.
Because to go over, here's the value we provide, and then here's the contract, and making sure that contract is being explained properly as well. So that will be a big focus for our team as well, to making sure that all agents on our team have that presentation locked in, because you don't want to just, hey, sign this contract.
Of course,
right? You want
slide it in.
Yeah, you want to make sure that's presented properly, and they know. Like a seller signs a listing contract, that's a legal binding contract, right?
Yes.
They know by signing that contract what they are on the hook for, as far as commission goes. A buyer's agent or a buyer with that buyer's agent now will be a similar type contract. They will then know what they're going to be on the hook for that fee, whatever is negotiated.
And we see today, 90% of the time, the listing client sees a benefit to pay the buyer's agent and be represented. And I think no one's in disagreement that the client should be represented from two different people, because that is going to provide a non-biased party to best represent a client.
Well, let's talk about that too, because we were talking about dual agency at sales meeting. And so right now, dual agency is a legal thing in our state.
And Nebraska and Iowa, it's legal.
And but in a lot of states, it's not. Correct?
Over half is not.
So because what I joked about was the next round of lawsuits will be, well, a buyer's agent says, well, I don't want to have to pay my buyer's agent this commission, especially if the seller's not willing to pay it. Well, then I'm just going to contact the listing agent directly. Okay, cool. What do you think the next round of lawsuits is going to be? Well, who did you represent, me or the buyer, or me or the seller?
Exactly.
And that will literally be the next round of lawsuits.
And you'd be like, well, that morning it was the buyer. You can't have two personalities.
Yeah, and so I used to do dual agencies a good amount, and a lot of agents like actually dual agencies because you have one less. I'll just say it this way: you have one less ego.
Yes.
In the mix.
And
you can if you look at everything rationally, not emotionally, you can normally get that deal together in a way that's sellers happy, buyers happy. Yes. Everyone's happy, right? But I can definitely see them changing it to where, in our marketplace, I know it's even been talked about. Are we gonna let dual agencies be legal moving forward? Nothing's changed yet. So as of right now, they are legal, but that will be interesting too, because that would change it too of a next round of lawsuits. Well, who did you represent too? So,
and you think the real estate agent's just going to pay themselves less? Absolutely not. And think of this. This is also, that can get dicey, is if 3 offers come in and one of them is with your buyer and you represent the seller, dual agency, and then 2 others come in with real estate agents that are going to be a commission paid towards them. So therefore you're getting paid less, right? So if I took the dual agency, let's say 6%, I'm going to collect 6% more money. Or these other two real estate agents bring an offer in, and now I'm only collecting, say, 3%, and I'm paying them 3%. Am I gonna? And this is where you can get in trouble. Where is that gonna
Ethical
be?
line
Yeah,
drawn.
that's in the super ethical line. Now today, you have to get both parties, the buyer and the seller, to admit they are okay with a dual agency. So both parties know. But I'm saying the real estate agent can be very touchy. So I would be shocked if they continue to allow that, because it's scary.
Yeah, and I think a lot of what we're talking, what I've heard talked about as far as like as this all started happening as of maybe 2 weeks ago this happened, was okay, we're probably all going to go the path of not doing dual agencies, and it would just be if the buyer contacts us directly, we explain to them, hey, we're representing the seller, period, and so we're not going to treat you as a client, you're going to be treated as a customer, which is a different representation. You still have to do everything ethically, morally sound for that person, that buyer, but you represent the seller, period. I always joke with people, Adam Briley, would not be good at representing buyers, and I don't represent a ton of buyers because I'm always geared to sell the house for the most amount of money, best price, best terms, and all that. You know, so but again, that's going to be a lot of like listing agents. That's going to be in their head. Well, I want to sell this because if you sell that for a good price and really good clean terms, what do you think you're going to get down the road? You're going to get referrals from that seller for other potential listings, and that's what you want. That's how you last in this business. You list to last. It'll be fun. I like it. Challenges you. It shifts. It pushes change. And I think the thing with you and I is we've always been like, I mean, look how much we've changed over the last 4 years. It's been insane.
It's crazy.
It's awesome.
So it's just adapt. So we're excited about it. We're educating. We want to get the message out there more. So you'll probably see social media posts, videos. We just have to do a better job of educating our community because they see these lawsuits, and in other parts of the country it might affect them more. Yeah,
and there's a lot of clickbait crap out there.
Tons of clickbait.
A lot of clickbait, a lot of negative vibes around it. I don't necessarily see it being a bad thing. It's just it'll change. Period.
It'll change.
And those who aren't willing to adapt, but that goes probably with any business, you will fall behind, period.
Exactly. So it's either you want to be with the party or the party's going to leave you. And we're at a point in the next few months, in the next year, if you're not staying ahead of that party, they're going to be gone. And you're going to be behind the times. And that's probably one of the things that I want to mention from the Maverick convention that I learned from Brandon on stage was he did a fantastic job. And this is what we do as realtors. And you're going to know exactly what I'm talking about here in a second. Real estate agents show up and they immediately start vomiting on the client with words.
Me monster.
Yeah. They just, me. Here's all my acknowledgments. Here's everything I do. I'm good. I'm the best. I'm number one.
Look at all my trophies.
Look at my trophies. And it's value. This is why I'm worth 7%, 8%, whatever. And let's say it's a buyer. This is why I represent you and I do a great job versus the other side. And what Brandon said is now what this lawsuit should force is people to meet with clients, and you should spend 70% of the time talking about how you're going to solve their problems.
Yeah.
Because really that's what you do as a realtor. You solve problems. So again, if you show up and you talk about all these accolades, but the person needs help with a moving company, let's just say it's that small. Well, guess what? Our brokerage provides free moving trucks. So you could provide that, but you're too busy throwing up on them or vomiting words about me, and you're not going to get a buyer or a listing. So 70% of the time, talk about what their problems are. Let's say there's a certain closing date or they need things fixed on the yard. Like we're going to start offering soon services to our clients to maximize their property value, right? Like offering to maybe a dumpster or a cleaning company or staging. So he really made a good point that our team, and we'll spend more time talking about what's their motivation, their why, and how we can help solve their problems versus the next realtor. Yeah, we're the number one in the state. Now we're the number one in the country. Yeah, we sell 4 houses a day. Yeah, we're the best. But no one cares about that at the end of the day, because if I have a realtor show up, let's say it's, XYZ name, so we don't use anyone's name, and XYZ talks about all the accolades, but the buyer, let's say Susan, needs these 3 things solved, and XYZ doesn't do any of those 3 things, they're not going to get referrals, and they're going to think negatively about our brand. Because if we just show up with accolades, what does that do? Nothing good. What do you think about that?
Well, I mean,
you can see that though, right? Like you can see realtors just me.
Yeah, and I'm guilty of that at times too. it's funny because like when I'm on an appointment, I literally will stop, check them, is this making sense? Am I talking too much? Because when I go on an appointment, I don't bring a presentation with me anymore. I used to bring the PowerPoint.
Oh yeah.
Right. Or like big fancy brochure or pamphlet or whatever.
Yeah.
And now it's like, I don't do any of that because, it was the me monster.
Yes.
And they would get the glass, I'd have this showing to them and they would get this like glossed over look on their eyes. Yep. So yeah, I tell them too, like, hey, I'm going to have like a 7-minute pitch on me. And the rest of that time is going to be spent on accomplishing your goals, formulating a plan, and then and going for that too. And I mean, the reality is like, you got to show your value, right? They want to know that you're going to work your ass off for them. I'll say it that way.
Yeah. And you should. I mean, you're there to make it simple and easy. So I actually was at the dentist's office last week, right after the NAR lawsuit came out, and the dentist in there and the person assisting him, which they both asked the same question, like, hey, how's this going to affect your business? I know you work in real estate. And before I could even say anything, they said, hey, they both said this, my realtor went above and beyond. I was like just astonished by how much they do. They made it simple. They made it easy. I didn't have to stress anything. It was the easiest process moving into my house because they set up contractors and they did this. And they said it was prior 10, 15 years ago, the dentist said about 10 or 15 years earlier, he had a terrible experience. So he felt like we evolved and we've gotten better, at least from the experience. So I think people will pay a premium for a quality product.
Yeah.
And like you're saying is, when you show up and you talk about yourself, they don't care about that. They care about what you can do for them.
Yeah. I feel like you're a mix now of a therapist and, and a GC,
Absolutely.
general contractor.
You are.
Because this whole week, I have a long pipeline of listings that are about to hit the market, and I have some that are on the market, right? Where I've gotten calls like, I'm out of town. There's
You sure the light's on?
Well, lights are on. I went to a house and I was turning on lights very commonly at this house because I wanted to make sure it presented itself very well. And they just weren't there to do it. Or the fluorescent light bulbs, right?
Yep.
One of those went out and, kind of looks goofy when it's out. So, getting that stuff switched out. Or a lot of times it's like, okay, we need to line up carpet and paint because by doing that, it's going to maximize your value. They have to agree to pay for it.
Well, of course.
But we're the GC. We're the ones lining it up.
But you're negotiating the cost sometimes or finding the person.
Yeah. And generally with us, like with Stacy doing her flips, we have access to all those people. So it's easier for us. It takes away from them and their current jobs, but it's a value add, right?
Exactly.
Because they're like, oh my gosh, I don't have to mess with this. All I have to do is approve the bid. That's great. And so, it's a lot of that sort of stuff too, to make sure like, and a lot of agents do that too. Like they want to make sure, because plus it helps them sell the house too for more money. And, so, it slightly affects their paycheck. It's not as much as, 7% of an extra $10,000 isn't really that much money, right? But or whatever that number is.
It's time is what it is. It's time versus money. If you can help clients save time and resolve their problems, there's an extra value. It's like getting a coffee delivered to your house. It's a fee to get it delivered, right? Like I can get a Starbucks coffee and I don't drink Starbucks for $25, let's say, or $20, or I can go there and it's $15 or it's $7, right?
Yeah.
Like my point is people pay for convenience. And that's why you even said earlier, more clients are more willing to get less for a profit if they can make it easier because they have dogs or they have this or they have that or they're embarrassed about certain things. Like clients will pay for that.
Yeah.
So I don't think that's ever going to go away as long as realtors evolve and we continue to be solution finders and we're market experts. Nothing will change in the real estate community as far as compensation as long as we continue to move the needle on the services, right? Because let's be honest, do you actually need a real estate agent to get inside the house? No, you could walk up today and go get in there, right?
Yeah.
But if you're just going to unlock the door, they should be paid nothing, right? Last thing I want to say is there was also somebody there from Place.
I know, we're going to have to hear more on the Maverick too.
And we will. Yeah, we're going to run out of time. So next time we'll talk about Place and kind of like what they're doing and how they're entering the space. And so it's pretty cool. So I'm excited to share that next time. But what I was going to say is the thing that they mentioned was that when you go meet with a real estate professional, they have always this ego, and it's like, how do you set this ego aside? And we get in the way because of pride or whatever it is. And what's nice about this lawsuit is it's highlighting all the things that real estate agents do that the clients don't realize will be more in front of the clients.
Yeah.
Like you said, the therapy thing, that's a real thing. Amanda was on the phone with a client last week, and they were on the phone crying because of some spousal issues. I mean, again, how do you put a fee on that? You don't. But at the end of the day, she was there to answer questions and meet with the other party because she didn't feel comfortable going to them because of these issues.
Yeah.
Think of that.
Yeah.
And that's a real thing.
Yeah. Well,
So-
and the nice thing is like our job is to stay non-emotional.
Exactly.
Stay rational during all of it. Now, sometimes agents get a little emotional.
They get a little fired.
But yeah, the whole idea is to stay non-emotional in it
Exactly.
too, which, like bringing up Amanda's like really good at like staying, I don't want to say she's cold, but she looks at it very like matter of fact. It's black and white. Like, here's what I know now from what you told me. Here's your course of action of what you need to do. Period.
Exactly.
This is it.
Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah. So, all right. Well, anything else? Like anything to end us out?
I think that what we've learned is at the Berkshire conference and with this N.A.R lawsuit, we need to make sure that we do a great job of explaining what are all the amazing things that real estate agents actually do for clients and how we can help them serve to the next level.
Yep. So sweet. Awesome. And guys, if you guys have any questions too, especially on this N.A.R lawsuit stuff, obviously send us a message, let us know. There's a lot of stuff we're learning too. So that's kind of all evolving. The biggest thing is, like Koby said, is we will definitely start being more and more transparent of course, on the documentation, which I feel like we've done a good job of that, but more so like, here's everything we do.
Yep.
To really show our value. So
Exactly.
thanks for listening, and we'll see you guys next time.